Greetings and good evening, beloved people. We are back. Thank you so much for joining the Coalition for a Just and Equitable California this evening. Hope you're having a fantastic day and a fantastic week. Welcome to our live weekly YouTube reading of the final report of the California Reparations Task Force right here on the CJEC YouTube channel. This is the only live reading of the California Reparations Task Force's final report on YouTube. The final report of the first in the nation California Reparations Task Force is one of, if not the most important government reports about the Black American community since the 1960s. Equally important is also the foundation for the current and future reparations legislation in California. The report is nearly 1,100 pages long, and we're bringing every page of it to you, chapter by chapter, every week on Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, so that you are properly educated in your advocacy for the reparations in California. Today's reading of the final report is presented to you as a community service with support from the Reparations Organizing and Mobilizing Team at the Coalition for a Just and Equitable California. CJEC is California's leading grassroots organization born for reparations and reparative justice for Black American freedmen living in the state of California. For more information on CJEC and our work helping to enact the law that created the California Reparations Task Force, California's law requiring state agencies to collect data on descendants of U.S. slavery, the Act to End Current Slavery in California State Prisons, the California Freedmen Affairs Bill, and more, visit www.cjec-official.org. Before we go any further, right now, I need you to do three things. First, connect to our YouTube channel, like this video, hit the bell for reminders, and 3, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Second, get connected to us on social media by following CJEC on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and Twitter at CJEC Official. Finally, get informed and involved. To do that, visit www.cjec-official.org to sign up for current and accurate California reparations news and info on our Get Involved page, and support our work by volunteering and or donating. To donate, just click the donate tab on the home page of our website. Special thanks to our amazing fiscal sponsor, the California Black Women's Health Project. You can learn more about our fiscal sponsor at the California Black Women's Health Project at www.cabwhp.org. By way of introduction, I am Friday Jones. I live in Los Angeles. I'm from Do or Die Bed-Stuy, and I'm volunteering. I'm a volunteer reparations advocate with CJEC's Reparations Organizing and Mobilizing Team. For the agenda for today, Chapter 23 of the final report of the California Reparations Task Force, the title of this chapter we're reading tonight is Policies Addressing Separate and Unequal Recommendations. You can follow along in the reading by downloading tonight's chapter or the full final report yourself by going to our website, www.cjec-official.org/reports. Okay, we are about ready to get started reading, but before we do, I have some special thanks and announcements to make. First, as always, I'd like to thank our good friends at ETM Media Group on YouTube for their live readings of the first California Reparations Report. You can watch their readings of the first report on their channel at ETM Media Group on YouTube and on our website at www.cjec-official.org/videos. Second, for those of you who don't know, historic reparations legislation in California is actually here and more is coming. SB 490 is California's first lineage-based reparations-related legislation to establish the California American Freedmen Affairs Agency. The bill was introduced by State Senator Stephen Bradford and will move forward this year in 2024. To read the bill, visit www.cjec-official.org/advocacy. Third, as mentioned, more historic reparations bills are coming. Over the next several months, more reparations bills will be written. During the 2024 legislative session, we'll see those bills introduced and start moving toward passage by majorities of both the California State Assembly and the Senate. To pass reparations bills in 2024, we need 41 Assembly members and 21 senators to say yes. When those bills are passed, we need our governor to sign the bills. So, to make reparations a reality in California, the math is 41 plus 21 plus 1. That's 41 Assembly members, 21 senators, and 1 governor. 41 plus 21 plus 1 equals reparations in California. Lastly, but not least, special thanks to CJEC's reparations organizing and mobilizing team, and especially our volunteer final report readers. And without any further ado, Chapter 23 of the California Reparations Task Force Final Report, Policies Addressing Separate and Unequal Education. And I'm picking up from where we left off last week on page 722. Adopt the Freedom School Summer Program. Studies have found African American students gain less academically over the school year and lose more over the summer, a phenomenon referred to as summer learning loss. Researchers have established that summer learning programs reduce summer learning loss, and there are certain practices that can help students succeed in the summer programs, such as using an evidence-based curriculum, incorporating hands-on and recreational activities, and hiring effective teachers. Additionally, a recent household survey found that African American families are participating in summer learning programs at record high levels, with half of African American families with children reporting that their child participated in a summer learning program in 2019. The survey found that while 1.9 million African American children participated in a summer learning program in 2019, parents reported that 2.3 million more African American children would have enrolled had a program actually been available to them. The task force recommends the adoption and funding of Freedom School summer programs. This could begin with a pilot program as initially introduced by Assembly Bill AB number 2498 in the 2021 to 2022 regular session of the California State Legislature. And we're going to be moving on and turning the page. I learned some new sign, y'all. We're going to be moving on to page 723. AB 2498 proposed a pilot program for the Freedom School Summer Program that could be used as a model. As would have been the case under AB 2498, the task force recommends that its proposed summer programs develop summer literacy and learning loss mitigation programs for public school students. These programs would celebrate students and the cultural richness of the diversity of the United States, increase the reading, writing, and comprehension abilities of students, and prevent learning loss during summer recesses. A number of studies from PACE and the RAND Corporation were cited in AB 2498 for the proposition that effective summer programs can improve academic, behavioral, and social and emotional learning outcomes and are noted here as support for the task force recommendations. Finally, the task force recommends the Freedom School summer programs incorporate, where appropriate, the curriculum of Freedom Schools of Mississippi summer program as referenced previously in this chapter. Reduce racial disparities in the STEM fields for African American students. Racial disparities exist in science, technology, engineering, and math, STEM education in California and nationwide. African American students lack access to critical STEM opportunities in middle school. For example, taking Algebra 1 in grade 8 creates a pathway to math classes in high school that are required for admission to many four-year colleges. According to 2018 data from the U.S. Department of Education Office for Civil Rights, for the 2015-16 school year, Black students constituted 17% of students in schools that offered Algebra 1 in grade 8, but only 11% of the students actually enrolled. 85% of white students and 74% of Asian students who enrolled in Algebra 1 in grade 8 passed the course, while 65% of Black students enrolled in Algebra 1 passed the course. Additionally, approximately 5,000 high schools with more than 75% Black and Latino students enrolled offered math and science courses at a lower rate than what was the case for all high schools, with the difference being in the greatest for advanced math, calculus, and physics. A study conducted by the Education Trust noted that roughly 2 in 5 Black and Latino students aspire to go to college and enjoy STEM subjects, but less than 3% enroll in STEM courses due to systemic barriers. These include funding inequities, education leaders' reliance on students' persistence or assumptions about their intelligence, racialized tracking, not receiving the same opportunities as affluent and white students to enroll in advanced STEM courses, and reliance on single denominators of reading, example, GPA or test scores. The Education Trust also issued a set of recommendations for the state leaders on how to increase access to and success in advanced coursework for Black students. This proposal adopts and directly incorporates the recommendations offered in reports published by the Education Trust and Kapor Center, but with the task force's intent that there be specific focus on African American students with special consideration for those who are descendants. Limited revisions have been made to ensure that proposal is consistent with other recommendations of the task force and its decision, with some exceptions, to use African American instead of Black. Substantive revisions are identified in corresponding footnotes, and where language has been added, it is identified in italics. Accordingly, following the recommendations set forth in the Education Trust report, the task force recommends to the legislature: 1, enact more equitable enrollment policies and practices such as I, requiring districts to use multiple measures to identify students for advanced coursework opportunities, including but not limited to express desire to enroll, exam scores, grades in relevant prerequisite courses, and recommendations from trusted school staff who have taken implicit bias training. I, passing automatic enrollment policies for all advanced coursework opportunities K through 12, so that the student identified for advanced coursework through any of the measures above are automatically enrolled in advanced coursework opportunities with the option to opt out. Triple I, monitoring progress of automatic enrollment to ensure schools are implementing the policy in ways that increase enrollment in advanced courses for historically underserved students. IV, which is 4 in the Romans, and providing technical support for students and districts struggling to enroll African American students in advanced coursework opportunities, especially those opportunities that are the foundation for future success. Examples include Algebra 1 and 2, biology, physics, and chemistry. We are turning the page and moving on to page 724. Number 2, eliminate long-standing barriers to accessing advanced coursework opportunities by I, covering the cost of exams, transportation, books, and other required materials for advanced coursework. Double I, requiring districts and/or schools to notify families about advanced coursework opportunities available in the school and district, the benefits of enrolling in those courses, and the process around how to enroll in the family's home language. Triple I, which is 3, providing funding to recruit or train teachers to teach advanced courses, especially in schools serving large concentrations of African American students. 3, annually monitor disaggregated data on enrollment in advanced courses by course type and provide technical assistance to districts that are under enrolling African American students in advanced courses. This data should be publicly reported on report cards so that communities have a better understanding of course availability and enrollment success in advanced courses. 4, require districts to set and hold themselves accountable for public goals that within an ambitious number of years, African American students will be fairly represented in access to and success in advanced coursework from elementary through high school. 5, ensure accountability for public goals that within an ambitious number of years, African American students will be fairly represented in access to and success in advanced coursework from elementary through high school. And number 6, implement policies to support district and school leaders in creating safe, equitable, and positive learning environments in advanced courses by I1, providing professional development and coaching for educators to create culturally affirming environments, build relationships with, and understand their students, support students' academic success, and develop anti-racist mindsets. Double I, investing in preparing, recruiting, and supporting African American teachers and counselors, given the research that shows educators of color are more likely to refer students of color for advanced courses. Triple I, requiring districts and schools to use culturally relevant anti-racist pedagogy, practices, and curricula, and provide technical assistance and funding for professional development. IV, which is the Roman 4, supporting engagement with families and members of underserved communities by requiring districts to survey students and families to understand their interests, their aspirations, and experiences with school, especially related to STEM. V, which is 5 in Roman, creating guidance for schools about identifying and partnering with community-based organizations that provide rigorous after-school and/or summer enrichment opportunities that expose underserved students to STEM and STEM careers. Following the recommendations set forth in the Kapoor Center report, the task force also recommends to the legislature these 8 items. 1. Utilize the Computer Science Strategic Implementation Plan, CSSIP, as a guidance document for expanding access to computer science in California. 2. Increase participation of students from underrepresented backgrounds in computer science education, especially African American students, by prioritizing funding and development initiatives for the most underserved schools and populations. 3. Establish rigorous computer science teacher preparation, certification, and professional development for K through 12 teachers. 4. Ensure access to technology infrastructure to support computer science education, prioritizing districts and local education agencies, LEAs, with the highest needs. 5. Implement K through 12 computer science standards within all computer science courses and integrated across subjects by providing support for LEAs, administrators, and teachers. 6. Develop assessment, data collection, and accountability mechanisms to track the implementation and efficacy of computer science education and track equity gaps. 7. Ensure computer science is prioritized as a high school graduation and college entry requirement. And last, 8. Implement large-scale policies and initiatives that address systemic education inequity affecting student outcomes across subject areas. Finally, the task force additionally recommends for the legislature: 1. Provide state funding for districts to obtain the resources necessary to achieve equity of resources across the board for African American students, including, but not limited to, hiring teachers, implementing advanced course offerings, purchasing technology supplies and equipment, and waiving the fees to take advanced placement exams. Again, we're turning the page and moving on. We're turning our page to 725. Let me get a sip. Expand access to career technical education for descendants. Discriminatory policies have created persistent inequities in educational attainment and employment for African Americans. The Center for American Progress, for instance, notes that schools have historically tracked African American students in low-quality vocational programs, quote, as an extension of Jim Crow-era segregation, end quote. High-quality career technical education, CTE, programs which combine academic education with occupational training to prepare students for careers in current or emerging professions, offer an essential tool to remedy this persisting discrimination. To address the ongoing effects of racial discrimination and inequity in employment, education, and wealth, the task force recommends: 1. Collecting and disaggregating data by CTE enrollment in California by race. 2. Funding and requiring all California public high schools and colleges to offer students access to at least one CTE program. And 3, creating a competitive grant program to increase enrollment of descendants in STEM-related CTE programs such as green technology at the high school and college levels. For the requirement that all public high school and colleges offer students access to at least one CTE program, schools could comply by partnering with another entity that has such a program already available. For example, High schools could partner with nearby community colleges to enable their students to attend the community college's CTE course. For the competitive grants to increase enrollment of Descendants, these funds could support programs implementing strategies that the Urban Institute has recommended for increasing Black enrollment in CTE programs, including outreach, mentorship, equity focused training for instructors, and providing potential students with access to adequate technology and software to access online CTE courses. As with other educational grants, the CDE would administer and award grants on a competitive basis to school districts, county superintendents of school direct funded charter schools, and community colleges to increase descendant participation in STEM related CTE programs, including electrical engineering, informational technology, renewable energy, green technology, advanced manufacturing, healthcare, and cybersecurity. Next section, improve access to public schools. As set forth in the task force's first recommendation to address the harms identified in Chapter 6, the state must increase funding to ensure that schools serving descendants provide the best possible public education available in the state. But in addition to quality schools, African Americans have long been denied access to schools of their choice as detailed in Chapter 6. Enslavement, segregation, redlining, and neighborhood gerrymandering have denied African American families meaningful and equitable access to a variety of high quality education schools. Thus, the task force recommends that the legislature improve school access by one, requiring school districts to prioritize creating and supporting new public schools, including magnet schools and community college campuses, in African American communities, with substantial weight given to input from those communities and descendants in particular. And two, requiring districts to permit students to transfer to public schools of their choice within their district or between neighboring districts if doing so would not maintain and exacerbate racial segregation, i.e., if the transfer would improve racial or socioeconomic diversity while funding free public transportation for students who participate in this school transfer program and ensure funding to offset the loss in per pupil funding in districts from which the student is transferred. We are at the end of another page. We're moving right along. So we're going to turn the page over to page 726. The first element of this proposal addresses how, through historic and ongoing discrimination, the state has failed to fund, staff, or support public schools in African American communities to the same degree it has done for white communities. Requiring school districts to prioritize the creation and funding of new schools in African American communities would also address the ways in which redlining and neighborhood gerrymandering have at times created artificial political boundaries that exclude African American families from nearby schools that they otherwise would have attended. The second element of this proposal similarly addresses how redlining and neighborhood gerrymandering have created artificial district lines that can exclude African American families from nearby schools, as well as the ways in which schools can apply the discretionary interdistrict transfer process in an inequitable manner with respect to African American families and their children. The second element of this proposal would also improve school access for African Americans, especially families including descendants of individuals enslaved in the United States, by building on the model of the Berkeley Unified School District's, BUSD's, intra-district public elementary school admission process to create an equitable model for intra and inter district transfers. Under the BUSD system, parents complete a parent preference form in which parents rank the elementary schools they wish their child to attend. BUSD assigns students based on their parents' preferences, but assignments are made within the constraints of 6 priority categories. Within a given priority category, BUSD uses diversity categories to assign students to each school to avoid segregation and ensure that the student body at each elementary school reflects the racial and socioeconomic diversity of the total school population in the attendance zone. Whereas the BUSD system is a system for intra district transfer, i.e., within the same district, the task force's recommendation is for a model that permits inter district transfers, i.e., between neighboring districts, to create an equitable system for transfers within and between neighboring school districts. In this recommendation, it is if this recommendation is implemented, the task force also recommends that the legislature implement budgetary provisions to provide funding to offset any loss in per pupil funding that may occur if a student transfers to another school within their district or to one in a neighboring district, to ensure that improved school access does not come at a cost of school quality if students and their families choose to transfer to other schools within their district or neighboring ones. While the focus of this recommendation is on addressing the historic and ongoing exclusions of descendants and other African American families from a range of school options, a 2009 study of BUSD school transfer policies included that its model also resulted in racial integration across the district being fairly high, and that BUSD has substantially integrated schools within the confines of the Supreme Court's guidance on voluntary integration plans. A subsequent study examining Berkeley-style geographic integration plans in the nation's 10 largest metropolitan districts found that the majority of schools in the study sample would experience gains in diversity, and that such school district plans could have the effect of reducing segregation in elementary schools, small schools, and schools in relatively more segregated districts with less diverse neighborhoods. The next section. Fund free tuition of California public colleges and universities. Colleges play a critical role in the socioeconomic mobility of Californians, but the cost of attending college have grown exponentially over the last several decades, and the rising cost excludes many African Americans from the promise of higher education, reinforcing the ongoing history of discrimination in education. Thus, the task force recommends that the legislature fund California public colleges and universities to ensure free tuition for all California residents, determined by the task force to be eligible for monetary reparations. We're turning the page to 727. As a 2020 report states, the quote, high proportion of low income Black students means that this population is greatly affected by rising college costs and dependent on federal and state financial aid in order to attend college, end quote. Within California, for instance, more than half of African American students at UC or CSU colleges receive Pell Grants, which are awarded to students with exceptional financial need. California's community colleges already waive or fund tuition through the Promise program for approximately 50% of students, nearly 1 million students. For the UC and CSU systems, through a mix of state, federal, and other financial aid programs, about 60% of CSU students and 60% of in state UC students currently attend college tuition free. Building on these measures, this proposal would follow the precedent of an existing policy begun in fall of 2022, through which the UC system will waive tuition and fees for Native American students who are state residents and members of a federally recognized tribe. The next section: eliminate standardized testing for admission to graduate programs in the University of California and California State University system. Standardized testing traces its beginning to racist origins, and researchers have identified standardized testing as one key cause behind the decline in African American enrolling in higher education, as the scores from such tests reflects either biased design or administration, or reflect the inequities that African Americans experience throughout their education. To remedy the discriminatory effect of standardized testing in education, the task force recommends eliminating standardized testing for admission to the graduate programs within the University of California and California State University systems until race bias is eliminated in the administration of standardized tests for admission. Standardized tests reinforce structural inequities in education, resulting in the exclusion of African American students from advanced degrees and careers. With respect to medical schools, for example, the dean of Morehouse School of Medicine observes that and this is a quote, while MCAT performance has had an adverse influence on the number of Black matriculants, end quote, the MCAT score, quote, has not been shown to significantly predict whether students will successfully progress in their medical education, end quote. Moreover, de-emphasizing MCAT scores, quote, could potentially lead to 3,000 more Black physicians either practicing or in the training pipeline in US today, end quote. Similarly, for the GRE, which is required, quote, for most graduate programs in the United States, including master's and doctoral programs in public health, end quote, one study found that eliminating the GRE as a requirement increased the number of African American students with, quote, no loss of quality as measured by undergraduate grade point averages, performance in required core courses, and graduate employment, end quote. The task force recommendation to eliminate standardized tests as a requirement for graduate school admissions follows the lead of numerous schools, including those in the UC and CSU systems, that have removed these requirements after recognizing that standardized tests reinforces structural biases and barriers without predicting success. Next section. Identify and eliminate racial bias and discrimination in statewide K-12 proficiency assessments. While standardized tests should be eliminated as a prerequisite for admission into undergraduate and graduate programs, standardized tests play a different role in K-12 education. As standardized assessments in K-12 are mainly used to assess proficiency and identify areas for improvement and need, if the state chooses to maintain such assessments, it must carefully evaluate them to identify and eliminate racial bias within these systems. Thus, the task force recommends that the CDE conduct an annual review of the California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress, CAASPP, CASP, tests for the racial bias, both in the way its tests are administered and in the types of questions that are included. The review should require that changes be made to the CASP test, administration, and contents in the event that racially biased procedures or materials are uncovered. And we're turning to our last page of the evening, page 728. The legislative findings behind the CASP call for the state to ensure that the exam does not use procedures, items, instruments, or scoring practices that are racially, culturally, socioeconomically, or gender biased. However, there appears to be no provision in the Education Code chapter governing the CASP that requires a review or assessment for such biases. The task force recommends reviewing, identifying, and eliminating racial bias in the CASP using bias review procedures that the state has already created for standardized tests in other contexts. For example, aspiring teachers in California must pass a, quote, reading instruction competence assessment, end quote. And the Education Code requires the Commission on Teacher Credentialing to, quote, analyze possible sources of bias on the assessment, end quote. Consequently, the Commission has a bias review committee, quote, which reviews all test content and questions for potential bias, making changes, suggestions, and even eliminating questions if necessary, and differential item functioning, DIF analysis, which more deeply compares question level responses of members of various subgroups to flag for potential bias after test administration. The task force recommends that the legislature create a similar process for the CAS. And so that completes our reading of chapter 23 tonight. And that chapter again, was policies addressing separate and unequal education, starting on page 715. Before you go, if you haven't done so already, don't forget to like this video, hit the bell for reminders, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. When you go, don't forget to get connected, follow CJEC on all social media, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter at CJEC Official. Get informed, visit www.cjec-official.org and sign up for the current and accurate California reparations news and info on our Get Involved page. Get involved. Support our work by volunteering and or donating. To donate, just click the Donate tab on the homepage of our website. Special thanks again to our amazing fiscal sponsor, the California Black Women's Health Project. Thank you all so much for your time. I personally do appreciate you all, as does CJEC. We are closer to reparations than we've ever been in California. And so with that, I bid you all a good night.